Mbalula has come out swinging and blasted both Zuma and Jacinta over the recent March and March movement that has been making headlines. In fact, there are rumors flying all over social media claiming that Jacob Zuma was seen crying over the sheer magnitude of insults Mbalula rained on him. But let's be clear, that's just rumors and social media trolls doing what they do best. Mbalula, during a tense media briefing, looked straight into the camera and did not hold back. He told Zuma directly that he is inciting violence and protest across the country. According to the senior ANC member, Jacob Zuma is backing Jacinta's March and March protest, which was scheduled for June 30th, and that support is adding fuel to an already heated situation. This back and forth has now put both Zuma and Jacinta Ningobezi Zuma right in the middle of national conversation again. Welcome back to SA News Trend. And as always, kindly smash the subscribe button, like and share this video, and stay locked in because we're just getting started. Kanjal, show them the first clip.
To court and all of that, we know them. But you can't just go to them and say that it is so and so. But we know the people who are behind these particular activities. It's people who fear democracy and the democratic processes in the organization. They are using people, not themselves. I've been dealing with court cases and litigation, and I've been very happy to deal with people that I know. This one is a regional secretary, is all of that, and they've not been expelled in the organization nor brought to book for all the things that they've raised. We brought them here, some of them in Lutuli House, and addressed their concerns. But here we are dealing with not the face, we are dealing with the front. That is being sent to destabilize the organization, and it arises in the context of contestation of the provincial conferences and regional conferences. March and March. No, Jacob Zuma have endorsed March and March, and he have actually gone extreme and said that Mabahane. His people have owned up to this membership. His Secretary General have called me and the President by name in defense of illegal activities. They have not stood up for principle. I've listened to people very well. I've listened to the King. The King is very responsible. It's very clear, the King, let government address immigration, but don't do this and that. Jacob Zuma is an elder in this country. He was a president. South Africans are failing to hold him accountable for things that he does and which happened under his watch. And he knows the difficulties of immigration that we're dealing with. And today, he's joining the fray, not responsibly, irresponsibly, as an elderly person, statesman, a man who was a president in this country. Stand up on platform and fuel violence. Mama, get 30 years. How can a person who was a leader not so long, call for violence in the country? Does he know what will happen here? Who wants this violence that is being purported here? These people don't know what they are talking about. He is supporting them for political reasons because he wants votes. There are many ways to win votes. He won votes. People followed him. He crippled the ANC, big numbers in Gauteng and KZN. He didn't do that by violence. Why will you encourage ordinary South Africans to fight other Africans who are illegal in your country? What is that going to end with? All of us, we should be looking at the state to increase its capacity to deal with this phenomenon. That's what is important. Are the issues that have been raised about illegal immigrants in our country not genuine, not real? They are real, they are truthful. We live amongst our people. I was giving you examples here. These things you know them yourselves. I'm not talking about stuff that I don't know. And then Samkele asked, don't we think the ANC has failed South Africans in relation to this in relation to this particular matter of illegal immigration and all of that? Failure will be the simplest way of saying ANC government has actually failed. But the fact of the matter is that the matter is more complex than that. It's more complex than that, and therefore it needs to be attended to vehemently. We've been dealing with this thing since we came into power. Even before we came into power, Africans have come into this country in the city of gold and work in the mines. The Basotho nationals, Botswana, the Zimbabweans, the Mozambicans have worked in the mines, and some of them refused to be unionized under the National Union of Mine Workers and subjected themselves to the exploitation of the mining companies in our country. And therefore they were protected. It is the ANC that came into power and undermined that and unionized in the mines and recognized the unions. You remember the black and black violence, Amaxhosa, Nabatswana, Namachangani in the mines. Because of what? Of scab work. When others who are South Africans championed strikes in the mines, those who came from outside the country who were illegal and foreign nationals did not strike, and they were used as scab labor in our country. It is perpetuated now in our streets through the porous borders. And when the economies of Zimbabwe collapsed, we then witnessed the unprecedented amount of Africans crossing the Limpopo River among crocodiles coming into our country with children, crossing to South Africa for survival. When Robert Mugabe fought for land redistribution in Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe subjected to sanctions and paralyzed to the ground, when Zimbabwe was the breadbasket of the African continent, and Zimbabweans did not need to come to South Africa to look for jobs, including petty jobs working in our homes, because they were satisfied in Zimbabwe. There are mines in Zimbabwe. Breadbasket, they were working in the fields in Zimbabwe. They came into our country after Mugabe, forcefully, after 10 years of the Lancaster collapse, that now we are taking land. And they said Mugabe is doing land grab. Tony Blair and the United States of America withdrew the economic support and investment in Zimbabwe and collapsed the Zimbabwean economy. But they still exploit the natural resources of Zimbabwe. Zimbabweans, the whole country is here in South Africa. We had to even include exemption permits for Zimbabweans. Why are Botswana nationals not here in South Africa? In their numbers, they are happy in Botswana. Swazis, Abesuthu, they are there, others are still here, but they are there in their countries in numbers. Why are they here? No justification for that. We have been talking to them from the days of Thabo Mbeki, that give Zimbabweans what we have agreed to them. They looked away. British, they looked away. Tony Blair. Mugabe even passed on. Mnangagwa is in charge. We thought reforms will attract them. They hit them with sanctions next door. When you go to Zimbabwe, you buy bread, you will see how much it is. Mauchincha 1,000 rand Zimbabwe is a kriva. imali yakhona the way lingata kati $. The economy is not because it's not functioning, it's because it's subjected to distress. The problem becomes a South African problem. Now these people come here and think that problem will be resolved by banning and attacking Africans against Africans who have been there under apartheid. Our people killing each other in the mines, speaking Fanagalogo. Africans underground in the mines killing each other. The ANC stopped that in 1994. They are taking us back, calling people Amakwerekwere in the street, 2-cent fame, populism, planting violence among our people. On the 30th, the country must be shut down. Political leaders who are responsible, who came from the trenches of our struggle, standing in platforms and encouraging our citizens to act irresponsibly. What is that? ANC can't agree to that. It can't. We urge our government to act decisively to protect its citizens, to protect jobs, but at the same time to deal decisively with the challenge of immigration. South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. We're still committed to that. Even tomorrow, we stay said up. And today, and tomorrow on the Freedom Charter Day, South Africa belongs to all who live in it. We chose that. We could have chosen the path that white must go to the sea, like the PAC would have preferred. But we said, this is a colonialism of a special type, where the colonized and the colonizer cohabit. Our strategy and tactics is very clear about that. The president meeting is very important. A meeting with labor, meeting with employers, meeting with religious people, and all of that. The church must preach. This selective xenophobia is interesting because we've got soccer players here, we've got celebrities who are not South African, and they are not subjected to any attacks. They are here working and they've got work permits and all of that. But these attacks are attacking poor Africans. Those who are well off, who don't even have papers, are going up and down here without being questioned, and they are celebrated. So we must deal with the roots of this, and to the understanding of all.
Now pause. From how brutal Mbalula came at Zuma, you have to ask yourself one thing. Is this really just about the March and March protest? Or is there an internal feud happening inside the ANC that the public doesn't fully know about yet? Because if we're being honest, this doesn't feel like a random clash. Well, speaking of internal issues, Jacob Zuma has never been shy about criticizing the ANC, the same party where Mbalula holds a key position. He's called them out before, and he hasn't stopped. So could this be more personal than political? Well, I'm not sure, but it can definitely be a problem. And it gets deeper. There's a video of Zuma openly accusing the ANC of rigging elections. He said it without mincing words. Now, although this video is old, if we're really trying to connect the dots and figure out what's fueling this tension between Mbalula, Zuma and Jacinta right now, then we need to watch it. Because sometimes the oldest clips explain the newest fights. Kanjal, roll the tape.
The IEC, where we raised concerns about how certain entities were appointed by the IEC. And that was in the form of us invoking the PAIA Act, and the IEC never responded to that. They were mute. We then followed up when we picked up certain transgressions in the voting process with a letter highlighting certain discrepancies that we had picked up at the voting stations. And even then with that, the IEC never responded. We followed up with a further submission where we raised an objection. As per the section 55, further nuances that were raising concerns regarding the glitch of the system that went offline for a couple of hours. What was interesting is that off the back of that submission, we were then, in our leadership team, called into a room by the CEO of the IEC for a discussion. And we were very clear in that letter that we actually wanted them to bring us into their confidence in terms of what transpired in a form of a press briefing. But instead they chose a route of pulling us into a room to have a discussion about that matter, which to an extent becomes, from our perspective, a censorship, because we wanted South Africans to know. And we stated at that point in time that we do not recognize the results that were on the screen, and that we were seeking a recount of the voting process and the actual votes, because the numbers, according to us, did not tally. And even the total tally that you see there, we still find very questionable. We mentioned that we would revert with evidence pertaining to exactly what it is that we had picked up in the form of evidence, and that we would share it accordingly. But as such as is the process, we had to submit our submission again in terms of the further evidence, which is very damning, and I'll touch on a bit of it, on the form on the side of the IEC. Executives, after having found such damning information that implicates the IEC, that implicates the ANC, that implicates the ANC in a form of them abusing state resources to advance their own gain and to keep themselves in power. We have evidence. We've submitted it as at the deadline of 6 p.m. tonight. The IEC is sitting with that file. We have tape recordings of individuals speaking about this IT system. We have individuals speaking about how they were going to chase some of our party agents away, of which they did, before even the counting had closed. We have confirmation that the ANC, through COCTA in KZN, funded party agents, more so employees of the IEC, who had oversight over this process, funded them to bring their spouses, and the same members of, or the representatives of the IEC that were appointed by the IEC are members of the municipality of eThekwini, who are ANC employees.
IEC cannot dictate terms. IEC ought to be an institution that serves the interests of the people of this country. Whatever timeline that we have, they have the resources of the state to make sure that they run a process that's independent, transparent, accountable, and satisfactory to the citizens of this republic. If all of us are dissatisfied and not happy by the manner in which they have conducted this process that brought so much discontent, IEC cannot dictate the timelines. They ought to respect the will of the people.
We had a PLC meeting this morning, of which the PLC is the National Liaison Communication, in other words, committee between political parties and the institution called the IEC. That discussion was quite robust, and the CEO had to leave, so the meeting was adjourned. Well, it wasn't adjourned, the meeting was left in limbo. And because the meeting was left in limbo, political parties had a mandate from their own constituencies. How do we go forward? What are the issues? And after quite a bit of consultation, which took us most of the day, prior to our mandate consultation, or consultative mandate, the IEC had a briefing this afternoon of which you were present. And in that consultative press briefing, well, it wasn't consulted because I don't think you were given opportunity to even ask questions. But they raised a few points that we had raised vis-a-vis. One, that they spoke about a possibility of a recount. Fikile, they conceded that there are issues if you look at it from a different perspective. And two, they granted what is deemed to be an extension to the condemnation. Fikile, siyanikeza isikhathi until 6, utshelwa ngo-4, which becomes an issue, leaves people in limbo because the gravity of the problem is quite severe. You've heard MK raising serious problems. So we sat and we put together what we felt was our plan, because we need to respond. Whether you got 1,000 votes, they're South Africans. Whether you got 50,000 votes, they're also South Africans. We have a moral, constitutional obligation to respond on behalf of the people who voted for all these parties here. The issue of voting is nothing to do at this juncture with winners and losers. The issue is to do what is right. We have been instructed by our clients to direct the following correspondence to your office, pursuant to the National PLC meeting held at Gallagher Estate on the even date. Abangezwa, the meeting eyabanjwa ekuseni. For it to be clear, so there's no misunderstanding. Further, the press announcement of the IEC earlier today with regards to the condonation meaning you had to have your objections in last night. They agreed to give us an extension until 6 o'clock today. The press announcement of the IEC with regards to the condonation time frame is deemed to be insufficient, unacceptable, and as a result of that, an extension to the condemnation is therefore requested and required until they have until 22 hours 30 namhlanje to respond. For parties to prepare and submit the voluminous of all the problems that have been identified, observed, witnessed, experienced during this 2024 national, provincial, and this new word called regional. Asiyaz with you, Conrad.
And I thought it was important for me at this point to thank the voters who have voted for real progressive parties who indeed are keen that we should change South Africa to be a country that is really democratic, a country that respects its laws and everything. I'm, for an example, worried now that we are saying there are wrong things that have happened during, whether it's accounting, whatever about it. And the institution that is given an authority to handle this for us, not for itself, for us, the citizens, guided by the principles and the laws. And if we raise the issues, that there are issues that need to be attended to, they have an authority to say, sorry, we'll give you just 2 minutes. And then we close. I don't know what type of democracy that one is on the people whom are supposed to be given this democracy. And they are pushed as if we are prisoners. Somebody forcing you to get into the cell before they know. The complaints that have been put forward are too serious. Very, very serious. This is not, or they are not like small little points. They are very, very serious. Before we could come to voting, many trucks were caught, driven by wrong people, instead of those who participate in making sure that everything is done properly, fairly. We have a right, a bigger right than anybody else, to demand it. It is us who are citizens. Institutions can't then say, we can't listen to you and let us rush. Because that is provoking people in reality. Then what do you do if the institutions that are supposed to deal with everything deprive you of that possibility? Then when people stand up and do something, somebody is going to say these people are wild. They must be shot, they must be arrested. It is a serious matter. In fact, there is a lot that is going to come out in these elections. I fully support my colleagues here that nobody must force us to say now this is what are as a result. Well, the results are not correct. If we say so, I think the institutions must satisfy us that they did look into the issues. It's the first time ever since freedom where people arrested doing wrong things. First time. I'm sure we all know that some people got arrested. You don't know? You're not journalists then. Journalists must know everything, don't you know? Huh? Investigation done by the, what did you say? Commission of Inquiry. It is us. Our parties are not having what they voted for. For an example, there's something they call, I don't know what it is called. Some say it's the machines crashed. There are no machines that crashed. The machines were being done things is wrong. We know, we are going to present that. We are going to present that. Nobody must rush us. And if they were doing anything for us, for our country, then they must listen to us. No rush. No rush. Serious. Because these are serious people who have done serious things. And we cannot allow them. We cannot. This time around, it might be fair and what? Next? Free Transparent,
And
credible, nice, and fair.